wildflowers and wine. Oh, scratchy record, the background of our lives. We're still in dancing to all this time, wildflowers and wine.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the first Matters of Fact podcast. I don't really know what the plan is here, but I want to do it consistently. So I'm just going to talk candidly. I'm not going to put too much work into the preparation. So let's just get into it. Today, I have an amazing coffee with me, and I'll probably introduce a new coffee, if not every episode, like every other one or something of that nature. Broadsheet Coffee Roasters. Phenomenal coffee. I'm going to butcher this name. Benitez Granja 92. That probably wasn't right, but that's okay. Just going to dive into it. I want to talk about where I am now, what I'm currently doing, and then back up and talk about like what I've done and the path to get here. Most people see the tip of the iceberg when they look at people and what they're doing, but they forget that the rest of it's under the water. You can't see it, and that's where the majority of it is. So I right now I own a gym. All right, 10,000 square foot facility, two companies, Hybrid Cheer, Hybrid Athletics. Hybrid Cheer is a sports training facility, and we focus on cheerleading. Hybrid Athletics, obviously it's the same thing. It's in the same building, but we work with other sports, so it's not specific to cheer, though that is our main demographic. We have people who do football, baseball, people who don't do any sports. They just want to be generally fit. I have some online clients. And then I also have a new affiliate program that I'm launching through a different company, Hybrid HQ, for people to open their own hybrid gyms. So very exciting news coming up on that. We have our first one. Can't give away too much here. And then I also have a consulting company. So that's BVP Ventures. It's another business of mine where I consult people on small businesses, because now at this point I've owned, and we'll get into all of the things that I've done, but I've owned probably 4 or 5 companies, and I'm by no means the person who knows it all. But when it comes to starting a business, going from idea to conception of company and actually moving into setting up invoicing and having to deal with accounting and websites and all of that, and handling inventory and even hiring employees now. I have a handle on those things, so I can get people from A to B, and they might take it and want to go all the way to Z, and I don't think I've done that yet, but I got some things that I can share and be helpful. So anyways, that's a consulting company. And then most of you who will see this probably know about Dan's YouTube channel. I co-host a YouTube channel. I don't want to say co-host really, because I just show up, I make stupid jokes, and then Dan does the rest of the work. So for those of you who are familiar with Dan and the YouTube channel, hats off to Dan, because he puts a lot of work into that. But I do that as well, and we haven't been doing too much recording as of late, but that's something that we plan on doing a lot more here soon. And that's probably the bulk of it. And then I really like to write. So I do a lot of writing, and this is going to be something that piggybacks off that writing. And like I said, I don't really know where this is going to go. This is going to be my candid thoughts about some sort of topic, and then I'll probably get lost along the way and just go down a rabbit hole and ramble. And if I start doing that, then I'll probably try to just wrap it up, move forward. I don't want to edit these, because if I have to edit them, it's not going to be consistent. I want to be able to just sit down, talk to the camera, have a cup of coffee, and share my ideas and thoughts on certain things. So mostly personal experiences. Although there will be some times that I get into like objective things when talking about like nutrition. So anyways, so good. I want to back up and start with where I was, because a lot of people, I had a goal of owning a gym for a long time. Any journal that I have of that I've written my goals down in, that's a recurring theme in every single one is I want to own a gym. I'm going to own a gym. Writing down those dream boards, always had own a gym. So I can check that off the bucket list now, but I feel like I'm still getting started with this business, because there's just a whole lot of potential here. it's hard to look back at the path and see like, okay, well, how did you get to be where you are now? And this is where I feel like a lot of people get lost because they want to have a plan. They want to be able to look and forecast and see, what are the steps that I need to take to get to where I'm going or want to be. And Steve Jobs has an amazing quote where he says, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect the dots looking backwards. And that's what I want to do today, is just connect the dots looking backwards, because I don't know what the future holds. None of us do. I feel like I'm going to start this story with my parents getting a divorce, which is a really somber way to jump into this. But I feel like that was the first step of me discovering who I was and who I wanted to be and how the world works, at least as far as, how I wanted to function in the world based on its general means of operating. When my parents got a divorce, it's one of those things where some people never have a family unit. So some people are born, they don't have, a mom or a dad, or they just have one, they have no siblings. I had both my parents, and I had 3 older sisters, and we were all really close. We're all very close in age. My whole life, we did the whole, full gamut of holidays. We celebrated the holidays, trick or treat. We all went together. We would go around, we would dress up, we'd trick or treat. Christmas, that was a big ordeal. Thanksgiving, we would always have a bunch of family at our house. So, I grew up having this family unit that was pretty integral to my life, in my identity. So when my parents got a divorce, I was just like, hold on a second. That these you can tell me people can just do that? They just took away what I've always known, and I have no control over it. That was I woke up in that moment. It was enlightening to me. And that's when I really started focusing on myself and what I can control, given that you're just you're not in control of many circumstances. And that's when I shifted my focus into me, sort of internal growth and trying to focus on what I can control, which then ultimately I think led me into really taking a liking to Stoic philosophy when I first found it. So I wanted to control everything that I could, and I did that. I did so in some unhealthy ways. I really got into fitness and health around that same time period. I was 12, so when that happened, it kind of hit me hard. I really took to working out. I was always an athlete. I always played all kinds of sports, but then I started taking to fitness, the actual working out, and I got really into nutrition and accidentally went down the rabbit hole of thinking that fat was the enemy, which is the Pritikin way of eating. And I got to where I was eating like 20 grams or less of fat a day. Now, to give you an example of 20 grams of fat, there's 16 grams of fat and 2 tablespoons of peanut butter. So I'm talking 2 tablespoons of peanut butter. Like I ate my fat for the day. That is absolutely nothing. It's terrible. That's what led me to ultimately being anorexic, which I was. I had some bad body images. I didn't ever think that I was fat. I just always thought that I could be more fit. So I constantly worked out. It was crazy. I would work out, like I would wake up, and first thing in the morning, I would hold an L sit for as long as I could. And I got to where I could hold it for like literally a minute and a half, maybe 2 minutes, an L sit. And I would do that at night as well, like first thing when I wake up. So the discipline I had was crazy. And I think it was because I had that like lack of control in my life. So I was just super, super disciplined to try to make up for that, like the fact that my parents got a divorce. And it taught me a lot about myself. It taught me a lot about discipline, but it was very unhealthy. And I just wanted to be more fit, and thought that I could do so by working out more and eating less. And obviously that's not a good equation, especially if you don't know what you're doing. And that ultimately led me to being 116 pounds when I was the same height that I am now. So 5'10", 5'11", and 116 pounds. I'm 195 right now. So that's me right now minus 80 pounds, which is just absolutely terrible. That endeavor right there led me to wanting to learn more about nutrition. So that's exactly what I started doing. I got really enamored in research and trying to find good sources of literature on proper nutrition. I was in that state for about a year, and luckily I didn't really do any severe damage to myself, meaning just like I recovered from it well. There wasn't any sort of like ongoing issues, but I definitely had many, many hormonal imbalances from my lack of consumption of fat. We make a lot of hormones out of fat. And overall, I was just malnourished. And so between all the proteins and the fats that you need for many regulatory processes in the body, I couldn't do that. So in pursuing the knowledge and educating myself in nutrition, that led me to want to get a degree in nutrition. So I ultimately went on to get my degree at Florida State in dietetics. And during my time there, I did everything that I could to learn. So I did most of my learning outside of class. I went to the classes, I enjoyed some of the lectures, I had some great professors, but for the most part, the actual good applicable knowledge that I still use to this day was things that I found on my own time, doing my own research. Which is why I highly encourage people, if they're interested in a topic, to just dive into it, just learn. You don't have to learn from somebody who is, an expert or accredited. And I shouldn't say it like that. You want to learn from people who know what they're talking about, but you don't have to be, one-on-one, face-to-face, having somebody deliver the message to you. You can go direct to the source, which is what those people do. Anybody who's teaching you anything, especially in an academic setting, they're referencing textbooks and literature, published peer-reviewed studies. You can go direct to those things and educate yourself. And that's what I did when I was in college. During my time in college, and I should back up. When I was a senior in high school, before I went off to college, I started a personal training business in my garage. So I went and got my level 1 CrossFit certification. I loved CrossFit. And I decided that I could train people. I had a pretty good understanding of the workouts. I worked out my entire life during my time in high school. In addition to the bad, habits with nutrition, I did go through a lot of different workout regimens and tried just about everything. So I got into CrossFit, started training people in my garage, made a decent amount of money. That was like the first time that I was like, oh wait, I can use my knowledge and skills and time to make money, on my own accord, not having to show up to a job. And I really liked that. And it was cool. I got to, make business cards, and it was called This Is HIT. And this is in 2014. This is HIT, high intensity interval training, before HIT was really a thing. So I was ahead of the game. I charged like $70 a person for like the month of training, but it was every day. So it was like an unlimited membership for $70. And I had like a group of, I don't know, maybe 10 people at one point. So I was like, dude, $700. So that was pretty exciting for me. When I went off to college, my sophomore year of college, I started a coffee roasting company. And I did this because I loved coffee. Again, I just fell in love with coffee, kind of like how I did nutrition. So I just endlessly went down rabbit hole after rabbit hole, researching coffee, learning about coffee. And then ultimately started roasting my own coffee, and then started selling my own coffee because people were like, hey, can you roast coffee for me? I was like, sure. So I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know anything about coffee, but I started buying green coffee beans. I just started in a pan on my stove and learned, trial by error. I drank so many bad cups of coffee. I burned so many batches of coffee, and I just, to this day, I can smell like the coffee burning, but it was like one side was burnt, the other side was still green. I was like, okay, I got to figure this out. So ultimately, what happened is my mom got me a small coffee roaster. You can get them for like $150 on Amazon, and it's a little kitchen top coffee roaster. So I got that, started roasting coffee in that, posting on Snapchat. People were like, hey, can I buy coffee from you? I was like, sure. Now this is a 4-ounce roaster, but that's 4-ounce dry weight. So you roast 4 ounces of beans and it drops down to like, you lose like 20% of the weight sometimes, up to 20%, depending on the roast level. So if somebody ordered a pound of coffee, which is what most people did, I was roasting coffee for like, it took me 30 minutes to get 1 pound of coffee, 20 minutes to get 1 pound of coffee done, which some people order 2 pounds of coffee. So I was like, time invested on getting out 2 pounds of coffee. It was just comical, knowing what I know now. But I grew that business. I started real simple. I made handmade labels, just writing the name down. It's actually Roasted Coffee Company. This is a relic mug from back in the day. So I started doing that. I loved it. I made a website. It was so fun. I realized I loved the creative part of entrepreneurship. Now, keep in mind, I'm still pursuing my degree in dietetics. So sophomore year of college, but I'm learning that I really do love business. And so when I started, when that got a little bit bigger, I had a business partner come in, Justin, amazing friend of mine. He's been my friend since I can remember being alive. And we got to the point of where we're selling in a grocery store. So I learned, like, each step of the way, there was such a learning process into how you can turn something into a product or service that people want. It's just value add. So those lessons I was learning all along the way, and I didn't really know because I was just so enthralled and excited to be doing it that I was just doing it. And then I look back and I go, what great educational experiences that I was having, you know? So we ended up approaching a local grocery store, and I went in and talked to the grocery manager and was like, "Hey, can I sell my coffee in your store? I'm a local roaster. And keep in mind, I'm roasting out of my apartment." And he was like, "Sure." So at this point, we had bought a larger roaster, it's a 3-pound roaster as opposed to a 4-ounce roaster, which is a big jump. It's 16 ounces in a pound. So 4 ounce to a 3-pound roaster, that's 48 ounces. And that's a big increase. So I felt like I could just roast for anybody, fulfill any order. So we started selling in the grocery store. We had to get barcodes, UPCs. There's all kinds of paperwork that goes into it, dealing with their corporate store. And again, just what a learning experience that I got to go through with that. So I learned a whole lot about the inventory business and the retail business through doing that. And I'm skipping a whole lot of details, but that's because I want to move on. So anyways, closed that down, graduated. When I was a senior, this is where most people have to start thinking, like, what am I going to do? And I'm the first person to tell you that I thought I knew what I wanted to do. And that's the important part. As long as you have something that you're pursuing, what's going to happen is it's inevitable that there's going to be a little, you're walking this path and there's going to be little side roads that open up and you're going to be like, that looks interesting. Should I go down there? And that's what I did. I went down every single side path that looked like it was a little less, it was a little uncharted. And I was like, well, I'm curious what's down there. So I did that my entire life. And really in college, I did a whole lot of like experimenting with different things. So by the time I was a senior, I was working for a guy named Dr. Gordon, who's still at FSU. He's a muscle biologist. He had his own research lab. And I ultimately convinced him that I was smart enough to write a research paper for him, which I did, and it's published. I through all of the external resources that I went to in college and all of the learning that I did outside of class, I was able to hold my own in having conversations with these people with their PhDs. When in journal meetings, I would be like, well, hold on a second. I read something about this. And so how does that tie into what we're talking about here? And I feel like they looked at me and were just like, do you actually know some things? And that's just because I was hungry for knowledge. So he ultimately said, do you want to write this paper for me? And I was like, a paper, like a study? He was like, yeah, there's a whole bunch of gaps in the knowledge on this topic. So do you want to do it? And I was like, sure. So I did that my senior year. It took my whole senior year. And then when I graduated, hold on. I got to stop. I got my real estate license. Okay, that was when I graduated. I graduated college. Wasn't sure what I was going to do because during my last semester of my senior year, I was talking back and forth with a professor out in Colorado who Dr. Gordon knew. And he did a lot of interesting research. He was researching a lot of like cellular mechanisms and genes, like the FOX genes, and all kinds of regulatory hormones and genes that play into energy balance and muscle adaptation. And so that was interesting to me. And I was talking to him a good bit about coming out there and working in his lab, getting my master's. And then I applied to the school. And I never heard back anything. Like, my application to this day doesn't have whether or not I was accepted or denied, which is kind of funny to me now. But I literally submitted an application to a university, okay? And I think it's Colorado State, CSU. And I never heard anything. Like, my application just still doesn't have a status on it. So I didn't get denied and I didn't get accepted. But at the same time, I also kind of got ghosted by the professor out there. And I was just like, hey, man, I was going to come out there and like visit and see the lab and meet you and everything. But like, it hasn't been a lot of communication. So needless to say, that was kind of my plan. And that just fell through. So I was like, all right, plan B. There was a job opportunity at the University of Providence in Rhode Island. to pursue as a cheerleading coach, head cheerleading coach. And I was like, well, that seems interesting because I cheered during college and I enjoyed cheerleading and was decent at it. So I was like, Providence, it's close to where I'm from, Connecticut. So I could technically just live at the house that we have in Connecticut and commute to Providence. It'd be easy, right? And so I applied, sorry, in order to apply, they didn't have any master's degrees in science. So I was like, ooh, well, if I go there to coach, I want to go to grad school. It'd be paid for. So I was like, I got to look for other things that I could do in college. Or I'm sorry, my master's degree. Insert my interest in business. I go, oh, they have a really good master's in business. So I started looking into getting my MBA. And when I started reading what the curriculum was for the MBA, I was like, this is amazing. I would love to learn all of these things. So, that one potential opportunity opened my eyes to what I could do is, getting my master's degree instead of science. I could get it in business because I love business. So I had to take the GMAT. Keep in mind, all of my undergrad was science. So I had to take the GMAT, which is basically, it's like the MCAT, but for business, and it's not anywhere near the MCAT. But it's one of those large standardized tests that you have to take to get a score to be accepted into schools. So I scheduled to take it 2 weeks from when I found out that I wanted to apply to this position as the cheer coach, and then bought the crash course book for the GMAT and literally did nothing but study for the GMAT for 2 weeks straight. And I mean, like, morning to night. Ended up taking it, did really well on it. Luckily, got a score that I could get into Providence. I got accepted, and then I didn't get the job as a cheer coach. So I would have had to just go to school to get my master's in business at Providence, and it was really expensive school. So it's just like, never mind. So plan C, I got my real estate license because I was like, well, I like real estate and I like business, so why not real estate? Or get my real estate license. So again, I registered to sit for the exam. I took the course that you're required to take. I studied. I passed the exam. Now I'm a licensed realtor in the state of Florida, still with no plan. So I start shopping around different places to work at. There's all kinds of brokerages, and I ended up going with Keller Williams. So if anybody who's familiar with residential real estate, Keller Williams is probably one of the largest out there all across the country. And I ended up linking up with them to hang my license, called hanging your license. You have to have it with a brokerage. So then I get a phone call. I get a phone call from Dr. Gordon. He was just like, hey, Bondi, my wife, Dr. Steiner, is opening her own lab at FSU. She just got a grant for a study. It's a huge grant. So she needs people to work for her, right? You submit grant applications. If you're approved or they give you the grant, then you have all this money to conduct the study that you said you were going to conduct, to find the thing you said you were going to try to find. You need help to do that. So he goes, hey, Bondi, my wife needs people. You're good in the lab. Do you want to work for her? Back in Tallahassee. I had moved from Tallahassee to Orlando. And I was like, sure, why not? I just got my real estate license, but I really didn't have a plan. This is like a job that I could do that was pretty flexible, so I could do both. So I moved back to Tallahassee, started with Keller Williams in Tallahassee, and was working as a researcher. I was a lab technician. So I would wake up, I would work at 6 o'clock in the morning. I got to work at 6 o'clock every day so that I could leave by 2 because it was 8 hours. So I was like, hey, do you care when I come in? She was like, no. I would come in 6 o'clock in the morning, start running Western blots, protein assays, and then until 2 o'clock. And at 2 o'clock, I would dip. I was out. And I would try to work on real estate stuff. So I would sift through the MLS, find expired listings, call on houses, do all this stuff. Again, learned a whole lot. Didn't know anything about real estate. Didn't have a team, didn't have anything. I was just on my own. 2 p.m., that's when my second job started. So I was just trying to grind to figure out what I could do with real estate. And then I also started doing stunt privates there in Tallahassee because I used to do them when I was there. So then I started doing that. It was just like cash in my pocket so I could survive. And then I did that. I'll fast forward. I did that for a while. I did that for about a year. And then I started, I figured out that as an FSU employee, I could get my degree paid for as an employee. So I applied to get my MBA, got accepted, and they had a little bit of a higher requirement, but this is where connections come into play. I knew a guy named Dr. Randy Blass, amazing professor at FSU. He was one of the guys that I went to when I was doing all the coffee stuff and was like, hey, I started a coffee roasting company. I know that you're kind of like the entrepreneurship guy here at FSU. How do I do this stuff? And so he was always like he was a nice mentor, gave me advice. And so I emailed him and was just like, I'm applying to the MBA program here. Any way that, you could give me some kind words. Wrote me an amazing letter of recommendation. Also, he was one of the board members for the College of Business. And so I got in. Don't know if that's just a coincidence or not, but Randy Blass and I were close. So it's always good to network. So anyways, I was working full-time as a lab technician. I was getting my MBA, and I was trying to work in real estate at the same time. So tons of irons in the fire, which I'm used to and I love because I have ADHD, so I can't focus. But if I have all these things to focus on, then when I start to get distracted, I just distract myself with another means of being productive. And that's why I like having a bunch of things going on. So anyways, I did that for a while and then realized with my master's in business, I could get a focus in real estate. So I was like, well, I got the license. I might as well get a focus in real estate with my master's so that I'm kind of real estate savvy. Well, I start looking around at jobs again and I'm like, what's next? I'm always thinking about what's next. I hated residential. I went into a house one time to show somebody and it smelled like death, dude. Like a coffin had been left out in the sun for 3 months and we just opened it up. So I walk in the house and I was like, oh my God, I'm done with residential real estate because I can't do that. It's just no interest to me. There's nothing, I don't want to say anything negative towards, a demographic of people that might want to live in a house that smells like a coffin been left out in the sun for 3 months and then opened up, but it's just not for me. I was like, I'm not interested in doing this. All right. I just want to be in real estate to make money. I'm honest. So I realized commercial real estate is exactly where those people should be. So after I graduated with my master's, or while I was in my master's, I connected with a guy in Miami who was a developer and at a very large development firm. And I went and had a meeting with him. And I was like, dude, I just want to ask you some questions about real estate development. And he was like, okay. So I went down to his office, just had a conversation. I literally just wanted to talk to him and figure out if real estate development was an area of interest to me. Had a conversation, left. I get an email. He wants to hire me. And I was like, sick, man. This is dope. So I go talk to my boss at FSU and it's just like, I got this opportunity in Miami to be, work in real estate development. I'm going to do that. Sorry. And she was like, I understand. So then I was gearing up to move to Miami to work in this job. COVID hit. No job. So moved back to Jacksonville. That's where my girlfriend at the time was from. And so there's family, friends. It's still Florida. We're familiar. So I was just like, sure, let's go to Jacksonville. And then I just started sending out emails to get a job. And I sent them out to all these different real estate development companies. Everybody's on a hiring freeze because of COVID. So I find the one place that never really goes on freeze, and that's brokerage, right? Because it's you eat what you kill. So I found my way into a commercial brokerage shop, Colliers, and started working investment brokerage. Started to just basically try to get deals done. Still pursuing my MBA at this time. So I'm working in real estate solely, and then in commercial real estate, love it. Love commercial real estate, super fun. And I'm getting my MBA, and then I also started Roasted back up at the same time with some buddies of mine in Connecticut, so they ran the whole operation. And then I was doing stunt privates as well at that time. Built a little clientele base here in Jacksonville, and ultimately started to see that there was a huge demand and no supply in that realm, because I got better at spotting those things throughout my journey, and then decided I wanted to start doing some clinics to help supply that demand, and then led to opening a gym. So that's let's pause for a second. My brain is tired. That's what a path to get to where I am now. It's like I took every exit off the highway and just, got back on and then exited again and then went 5 miles down the road, turn around, come back, get on the highway again. Like, you would look at that process and just be like, wow, what an inefficient way to move. But at the same time, that's what I would suggest people do with their 20s. Like, to just do everything that you can, because it's really hard to say what it is that you want to do and how you want to do it. I had these things that I wanted to do, and they were like the main focus. So my main focus kept me moving forward, and all I needed was that forward momentum, because along the way things are going to pop up. And I'm the first person to say that in my experience, you should absolutely stop to see what all of those things are. Because in doing so, not only are you going to learn, which is just to me the most important thing and the most fun thing, but you also never know what you could discover. Like, no matter what, it's a lesson learned, so it's a win. But you might end up going down that road and go, oh my God, I'm so glad that I did this, because look at the doors of opportunity that just opened for me. Whereas if I was trying to be one of those people that's just like, no, laser focused, want to do this thing, you're walking right past something that might actually be what you want to do. So, writing that research paper for Dr. Gordon is the only reason that I got the phone call to get hired at FSU. And being at FSU is the only reason that I was able to get my master's for free. And then I used that master's to leverage to get job opportunities that I probably otherwise wouldn't have been able to get. And because I was doing those things here in Jacksonville, I was able to start stunting and build a clientele of people in this area that now are ultimately our customers for hybrid, which is far bigger than I ever thought it would be. I'm 27. We have 10,000 square feet. We had 2 gyms. I closed one down, which is another great learning experience. And 4 full-time employees, 1 contracted employee. And that was the path that I took to get there. So very much not a straight line. And connecting the dots, the not getting an application reply from CSU, right? And literally not getting denied or accepted, not hearing back from that professor, not getting the job in Providence, right? Deciding to get my real estate license, and then taking a job in Tallahassee. Like, all of those things, like, there's so many points that I thought were defeat. And it's just what Ryan Holiday says is the obstacle is the way. So it just shows you, like, the obstacle in your life, not getting into CSU or not getting anything back from CSU, getting ghosted by the professor, not getting the job in Providence. Like, those obstacles in my life that just felt like a punch in the face at every corner ultimately ended up being what pushed me into where I am now, which I am so happy with where I am now. If for nothing else, the learning opportunity that this has been, the educational experiences that I've had. So all of that to say that if you're one of those people who's coming up on graduation, or you graduated recently, or you just started working a job, if you're in your 20s, all of that to say that, you can look at where I am now and be like, oh, awesome. Like, that guy's in a cool spot that I might want to do. First off, you never know how anybody feels about anything. So comparison is the thief of joy. That is so true, because you never know what anybody's actually feeling. Second, I highly encourage that you just keep moving forward, keep forward momentum, because you never know what's going to pop up. Don't limit yourself to just getting hyper-focused and getting tunnel vision on one thing. I think it's silly. Life is about experiencing things, and if you don't ever stop to look around and see what you could be doing, what you could be adding, then I just think that's personal opinion. I just think it's a silly way to live, and I think it's an ignorant way to live, because there's just so much out there. So yeah, get out there, do some things, just keep moving forward, keep exploring new opportunities. If something seems shiny and interesting, just go see what it is. It might be nothing, but it might be something. And that's the question that I want to not ask myself at the end of my life. What could that have been? I want to be like, I went there, I wiped it off, and it was just an old tin can. Okay, at least I know. And I'm not going to sit here and wonder, when I'm 85 and that's it, I'm at the end of my life. I don't want to be like, dang, I really wish that I went and saw what that thing was, because that could have completely changed the course of my life. And I've experienced that enough looking into something, changing the course of my life. I've experienced that enough now that I will definitely never let another, not another. I definitely won't let opportunity pass me by. So do what you want with that message. That's it for me. Rambled for 34 minutes. Hopefully this was interesting. I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace out.